The pre-flood history of the Atlanteans, the tribe of Dan, the lost tribes of Israel, the royal genealogy, the Vimanas, and the Trojans of the Trojan War. Flying aircraft of the ancients. The tribe of Dan, who were the Spartans, of course, the lost tribes of Israel, royal genealogy, Vimanas, and the Trojans. Sutherland. The serpent traveled the world and finally bit its own tail back to Australia, where the Bright brothers came. These two men were the biblical Moses and Aaron, who were known to the Egyptians as the Pharaoh Akhenaten and Smenkhare. Their sister Miriam was Egyptian Nefertiti. They brought with them the law and the sacred color red. The only exceptional life form they left us was the Egyptian war dog, now called the dingo. The daughter traveled by flight and moved from Asia to northern Australia, leaving the dog Diego and the story of the sacred kingfisher on the way until she arrived in Nova Scotia by air and brought to America the law and Diego, who is now called the Carolina wild dog, then to Scotland, not directly from Egypt, as was believed and still is believed. The promise of the bird king is fulfilled in the hour of darkness. From now on, the truth will come to the fore. Red is his hair, his nose is hooked. White is his skin, and green his eyes. The same description for all the people of the tribe throughout the world. It's the bear, the snake, the soft white stone, the eagle, the secret of the sacred kingfisher, and the red flower, which is sometimes called the rose. The snake, the bear, the soft white stone, the sacred red flower, and most importantly, I am the sacred kingfisher, from the blood also given to you by the wild dog, which is the Egyptian war dog, also known as the dingo. I am the living place of the sun, S-U-N. Red is my hair, green is my eyes, white is my skin, and pink is my nose. I am the king bird of promise. The Aborigines of the Flinders Rangers have already declared it to me. The place declared is a place called Veltana. To them I am Popa Dingi Digi. The so-called Rama Empire of northern India and Pakistan developed at least 15,000 years ago in the Indian subcontinent and was a nation of many large, sophisticated cities, many of which still stand in the deserts of Pakistan, northern and western India. The Rama Empire was ruled by the enlightened priest king who ruled over the cities. The 7 major capitals of Rama were known in classical Indian texts as the 7 cities of the Rishi, and according to ancient Indian texts, people had machines called Vimanas. Ancient Indian epics describe the Vimana as a circular, double-decked aircraft with portholes in a dome, much like we would imagine a flying saucer. It flew at the speed of the wind and left behind a sound consumption. There were at least 4 different types of Vimanas, some saucer-shaped, others like large flask or cigar-shaped. D. Hatcher's Childress says ancient Indian aircraft technology in the Anti-Gravity Handbook. An aerial chariot, the Pushpaka, carries many people to the capital of Ayodhya. The sky is full of amazing flying machines, dark as night, but with lights of a yellowish brilliance. Bhava Bhuti's Mahavira, the 8th century Jain text selected from earlier texts and traditions. In the Vedic literature of India, there are many descriptions of flying machines generally called Vimanas. They're divided into 2 categories. 1, man-made craft resembling airplanes and flying with the aid of bird-like wings. And 2, non-aerodynamic constructions that fly in a mysterious manner and are generally not made by human beings. The machines in category 1 are described mainly in medieval, secular Sanskrit works dealing with architecture, automata, military, that's robots, military siege engines, and other mechanical inventions. And those in category 2 are described in ancient works such as the Rig Veda, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the Puranas, and have many features reminiscent of UFOs. There are ancient Indian records of man-made wooden vehicles that flew on wings in the manner of modern airplanes. Although these wooden vehicles were also called Vimanas, most Vimanas did not resemble airplanes at all. The most common Vimanas had flight characteristics similar to those reported for UFOs, and the beings associated with them were said to have powers similar to those attributed to UFOs and entities today. An interesting example in the Vimana is a flying machine that Salva, the ancient Indian king, acquired from Maya Danava, an inhabitant of the planetary system called Taltala. According to Richard Thompson, Extraterrestrial Identities, the cruel Salva had come to the Soba chariot, which can go anywhere, and from it he killed many brave Vishni youths and wickedly destroyed all the parks in the city, according to the Mahabharata. The plane captured by Salva was very mysterious, and it was so amazing that sometimes many places seemed to be in the sky, and sometimes there were apparently none. Sometimes the plane was visible and sometimes not visible, and the warriors of the Yadu dynasty puzzled over the fate of the particular plane. Sometimes you'll see the plane lying on the ground, sometimes flying in the sky, sometimes resting on the top of a hill, and sometimes floating on the water. The magnificent plane flew in the sky like a whirlwind torch. It was not stable, even for a moment. This is from the Bhakti Vedana Swami Prabhupada Krishna. In the Sanskrit Sutradhara, it's written, strong and durable sound made by the body of the Vimana, like a large flying bird made of light material. Inside it, one should place a mercury engine. Oh, there we go, mercury. They used mercury. Mercury engine with the iron heating device underneath. By means of the latent power of the mercury setting the engine turbine in motion, a man sitting inside can travel a long distance in the sky. The movements of the Vimana are such that it can ascend vertically, descend vertically, move with an inclination forward and backwards. With the help of the engines, human beings can fly in the air, and celestial beings can descend to the earth. The Hakatha, the Babylonian laws, states quite clearly, the privilege of operating a flying machine is great. The knowledge of flight is one of our most ancient inheritances, a gift from, quote, those on high, end quote. We received it from them as a means of saving many lives. The Old Testament story of Moses being placed in a basket and floating down a river to be found by a royal family mirrors the early Sumerian account of King Sargon. The Sumerian star gods, in agreement with the biblical story, Sumerian text document stories of extraterrestrials called star gods who mated with human women and took the first kings to the stars. According to the Sumerians, the star gods were from Mars, the Pleiades star system, and Sirius. The Sumerian texts also contain drawings of the solar system. From Waddell's book, Makers of Civilization, we find that the records of Sargon were written before ancient Egypt, and the Sargon's records were not written in Egyptian hieroglyphs, but in Sumerian hieroglyphs. Early Sumerian Egyptian hieroglyphs show Sargon's grandfather as a world leader known to the Egyptians as Ketme, to the Sumerians as Taku or Teki. In the Old Sumerian king list, he is known as Tuk, and in the Indian king list, he's called Vritaka or Dritaka. Sargon's father inherited the kingship and became in Egypt known as Ro, but called Purugin in Sumerian Egyptian hieroglyphs. In the Old Sumerian king list, he was known as Burujina. On Indus Valley seals, he was Buru or Puru, and in the Indian king list, he's called Puru. Inscriptions for King Sargon were discovered in one of the oldest tombs found in Abydos in Upper Egypt. Waddell identified the inscriptions from the same text he's seen on Sumerian tablets found in the Indus Valley. In early Sumerian writing, King Sargon was known by his personal name as Ging Ukus, and in Egypt he was known by his personal name as Ging Ukusi. The title Ukus or Ukusi in Egypt meant that he was a descendant of the first Sumerian king, Ukusi or Uku, meaning sunhawk, the first Aryan king. Both the Indian epics and their sacred books, the Vedas, use a solar title Ikshwaku or Ukusi. All of the three of these kings of the Sumerian Empire had solar titles due to the emphasis on sun worship and the symbolism of the sun as god. It's highly probable that Horus or Haru, the Egyptian son of God, came from the Sumerian word Hu or Ha, meaning hawk, or hawk, sunhawk, as the Sumerian symbol of the sun. King Menes or Minos Mind, son of Sargon and the first Egyptian pharaoh, led a rebellion against his father and took control of Egypt, declaring independence from Sumer, and as a result, Sargon not only disinherited him, but also gave him the succession of the kingdom to Sargon's younger brother. After a decade or so, his brother died and Minos took over the kingdom, uniting Sumer with Egypt again. Evidence now shows Minos dying in an ocean voyage to the west. Ireland and Scotland. The Egyptians established a colony in Ireland. Egyptologist Lorraine Evans, in The Kingdom of the Ark, suggests that the colonists were led by Princess Scotia, daughter of Akhenaten and half-sister of Tutankhamun. She died in battle, and her tomb is still marked today by a slab that has not been excavated. The descendants of Scotia continued to become the High Kings of Ireland at Tara in County Meath, and then on to Scotland, meaning land of Scotia. King Dan I, Odin, began his reign in Scandinavia in the year 1040 BC, and his genealogy was known to reach as far as Troy. Odin, coming from Dan, is a title denoted of kingship or lineage of the shepherd, also known as Wodin, Wotan, or Dan. Odin is derived from the Hebrew word Adonai, meaning Lord. Families descending from Odin are descendants from the ancient Trojan kings. Ancient classical and biblical sources state that the Trojan kings were of the royal lineage of Judah, and that they were closely related to other royal families in what is today Western Turkey, Ionia, Greece, and Crete. Early British royal genealogy traditionally derives from the Trojan kings. The kings of Ireland are supposed to have sprung from the Milesian royal family of Ionia, whom the daughter of Pharaoh married. Priam Hermann Ho traces the genealogy of Odin back to Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which confirms the royal lineage. Accepting these sources, the magazine's notes, the royal families of northern European nations, Irish, Scotland, early Britons, Franks, Norwegians, are all scepters of the tribe of Judah, and the many intermarriages of these royal lineages took place in any case within the royal great family, so much foretold in the scriptures. Queen Elizabeth II has declared herself descended from Odin. December 1981, Christian Israel Foundation, Walsall, England, page 117. The Battle of Troy, and even Troy itself, was believed to be only part of the incredible Greek myths or mythology. Troy and the events associated with it were still considered purely mythological when Charles MacLaren proposed in 1822 that a certain mound in eastern Turkey called Hisarlik was the site of the Homeric Troy. It was only when the businessman named Henrik Schliemann, risking his own money, he was an archaeologist, made spectacular discoveries as he dug into the mound in 1870 that scientists began to acknowledge the existence of Troy. It's now accepted that the Battle of Troy had indeed taken place in the 13th century BC. It was then, according to Greek sources, when gods, quote unquote, and men had fought side by side. In such beliefs, the Greeks were not alone. Isn't that amazing? Amazing that the first kings of Europe were of the tribe of Judah, the son of Jacob, from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's amazing. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.